I'ma put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, my sidekick, Berkey. What's poppin', baby? How you feeling today?
Open your fucking eyes.
My eyes?
I'm clearly busy doing something. Every day you throw it to someone else. Open your fucking eyes, man.
Whenever you're doing something, I send it to you.
Why?
People want to see the behind the scenes. You know? They want to see how you get ready for this pod. And you're working every second, every minute, right up till we go live because you're doing it for people.
It's true.
People. That's right.
That's a good point.
That's what I think.
It's a good savior. The eternal politician.
I just don't know why he's on this pod. I truly don't. I mean, you have literally one job and you fail at it most days out of the week. 4 out of 5, maybe.
Nah, 5 out of 5. Come on.
Probably 5 out of 5. I think we're going to have you do something else for the summer. I'm not sure what yet, but...
He's our hands on deck at the WSOP.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have you like walk around the show. Just cut to Conrad every few minutes. We just like randomly cut to him whenever we see him like doing like he's in the bathroom taking a shit. It's like, hey, Conrad on the scene.
Hold on. Time out.
My sidekick.
Time out. You know that would never happen, right?
What, you taking a shit?
Yeah.
I'd never taken a shit in public.
In your life?
There was one time in an airport where it was do or die. And
are you just really good at holding it or really good at planning?
Or
really, really regular?
Both. But I just won't take a shit outside of like either A, the hotel I'm staying at, B, the house. That's it.
You're a germaphobe?
No, but for
He's
some
like
reason,
Randy.
He's Randy.
For some reason, it's just like, I don't like this idea.
Yeah. We all like, doing our business at home.
Right along with the same idea of me not sleeping on hotel sheets.
Yeah, that was funny. He's just like, I gotta go to the store and get some sheets. I'm like, what? He's like, oh yeah, I don't sleep on these hotel sheets. Are you crazy? You know what people do on these things?
Life is hard enough. Life is already hard enough. What are we doing that we have to plan our poops and bring sleeping bags to hotels and all this other stuff? It's like,
probably second nature to him at this point.
It's second nature, like when I pack, it's that grabs. Like when I shit, I'm like,
I think the worst part about having to go poop, like when you're out at a restaurant or when you're out and about, is they never have those toilet liners, and on top of that, those toilet liners are so thin, and you have to spend like a good 3 or 4 minutes like prepping, making sure that the toilet paper lands correctly. You got to make sure everything is symmetrical so that when you sit down.
Men used to go to war. We're born out of living in caves and wiping our asses with like dead animal fur. What?
You go cheek right to the bowl?
Yes. Yes. Like, what's going to happen to you?
I don't know, man. Get some kind of weird butt rash.
I can't think for the rest of the fucking week. That's what's going to happen to me. I'm going to think about that one moment when my balls touch the back of the seat. Oh, no.
Why?
It's disgusting.
Why are they touching the back of the seat?
Listen, man. Whatever.
When your dong hits the front of the bowl on the way down.
Nobody wants any parts of this.
Water.
Flex a little harder, boys. Conrad's got saggy balls and Guapo's claiming fucking 12 inches.
No, you know what I'm saying. It's happened to everybody.
No, it has not happened to everybody.
Listen, man. All I know is some things just bother me, and that's just one of them.
I gotta tell you, this conversation bothers me.
I also don't like using utensils.
This is city boys versus country boys, Burke.
I'm just like,
because we grew up in the dirt.
I'm honestly just, first of all, Guapo's from Vegas. Like, you don't get to claim being a city boy here. This place is.
Listen, I grew up on Long Island.
This is a city.
I'm definitely.
I mean, yeah, like you're not like.
It's not like they're out there playing in the woods.
I get it. You're not mucking around in the woods and whatnot, but like also, this place is very unkempt. to say the least.
Do not speak ill of our city that we live in.
I'm glad you consider it home. I think this place is a dump.
So that means your cheeks right to bowl
place.
too as well, Humby.
What?
Your cheeks right to the bowl.
It depends on how bad I got shit.
So if you have time, you're laying down some.
If I have
some
time,
protection.
I put one liner down, but I don't like take 4 minutes. I just take it out, put it down, and then go.
That's another.
If it's an emergency, there ain't no time for that.
That's another thing that I'll speak. Like, I'm very much about saving time, and there's no way I'm going like prior to fucking doomsday.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I have 30 seconds between now and when this thing hits something, and I hope it's not my pants.
Listen,
Man, what a bad day to not have Poo Dog Melissa on.
Shout out to Melissa. She's not feeling well.
Yeah. Get better.
Let's hope it's the flu. She said she threw up before getting here, and I said, "Congrats on the baby," and she said, "Thanks." And I'm like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Oh man.
Only person who's not hoping for it to be the flu. Actually,
off the rails.
I don't want to get sick either. It is that time.
It's a bad time of year to get sick.
Nah, it's that time.
I mean, we're all gonna get sick.
The Rio flu is just lurking. I mean, it's just like hovering over Vegas right now.
I love that it's still the Rio flu.
It has to be. Like, the
You
Rio's
guys-
just so down bad.
You guys realize it's 8 days away?
I know. I can't wait.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
That's pretty sick.
Oh, it's so great.
It's so soon.
It's very soon.
It's too soon.
Tortoise, what's event number 1 for you?
Event number 1 is the mystery bounty.
Tor-
the
I'm going to
$1 million
follow
mystery
you
bounty.
around.
You gonna follow me around?
Yeah, whatever
Alright.
you do, I'm doing.
I'll be under that big
Set-
dome with all the lights.
Send me
You need
your
to see me?
your schedule. Whatever you do, I do.
Mhm. All right, I will.
That's how I'm going to figure out my summer.
All
Is
right.
the
Wherever the
mystery-
tortoise goes, I go.
The mystery bounty is different from the Millie bounty, right?
No, that's
No,
same.
that's what
It's,
it is.
it's the same one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Guapo's in there.
Guapo's
I'll
going to be in
firing
there.
mystery
Let's
bounty.
go.
Yes.
Guapo.
How many events are you going to
I
play,
heard
Guapo?
you're selling 90% of yourself, and
Yes,
you're
very likely.
not likely to play very well.
I see what you're doing there. So
Yeah.
it took me a
The
second.
audience has no.
If anybody wants to know why we're late, it's because
I was stirring the pot. All right.
Guapo chose violence today and decided to interject me into an argument that I couldn't care less about, and one that we've actually already discussed on the pod a few days ago.
Man, I was heated. I got into a heated argument with Andre today about it.
Yeah. It
was
it
like,
was a little spicy.
I can't breathe. I had to go for a walk.
Why
Lucky you
don't
didn't
you
get your
take a
ankles
deep
bit
breath
off.
and fill everybody in on the conversation?
It's so hard. Okay, so basically I was like, Guapo, why don't you play the main this year? And I was like, how much are you comfortable taking of yourself? And he's like, I'd rather take 10% of myself and sell 90. And I was like, why don't you do that 1.05 and then whatever.
1.05 for the
1.05.
main? He's
I
a
wanted to
winning
sell it
player.
phase.
So,
At face?
so that's the thing.
Yeah, no markup.
I was
Why
like,
do you
listen.
hate money?
Better question is, why am I talking
Hey, man,
him out
I'm
of
not a
it?
tournament guy.
Yeah, exactly. You're
Yeah,
gonna
exactly.
buy all of it. First of all, he was like, I wouldn't sell out. And I was like, I will
Okay.
bet you.
Okay, buddy.
I was like, I will bet you whatever you want that you'll sell out
If I
within
could
the
explain
next
to you
24 hours.
the people I've bought pieces of at like 1.2, where there's a good chance that they weren't better than break even.
All right.
Man, I
boy.
was so sad I
Now,
didn't get that bet there.
look,
Anyway,
don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think you should be like looking for 1.3 or whatever. Like, markups have gone down in the main, and justifiably so. It's harder to win than ever before, for sure. But
I feel comfortable selling it no markup. I think.
if you're a winning cash player, you're winning in the main event
Yeah,
field.
and these other events too. Like, I mean, I sold my package at 1.15, which I thought I think is
I think
reasonable.
that's very in line.
Yeah,
with
I'm playing
good.
all of the smaller buy-ins, high value, recreational friendly tournaments.
how much in buy-ins are you playing? Or sell for?
I think it's roughly 20K in buy-ins.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're playing probably like 12 events?
12 or 13 with multiple bullets,
Is it? So it's not including the main.
not including the main. No,
Okay.
I sell that separate.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And you're all sold out, right?
I am all sold out.
Fucking tortoise.
Yeah.
Look at him. Got his shit ready. Berkey.
Yep.
We're 8 days away now.
Yep.
What do we
I'm
expect?
gonna put my package together.
What do we expect to see you in?
You didn't even finish telling the argument.
Oh, that's because I
That
lost
was
train of thought.
strategic. You should have just let it go.
God, he's the best host ever, guys.
All right. Anyway, back to the argument. So, I was like, Guapo, why don't you sell 1.05? He's like, and then Andre says, I don't think that's right. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, he's getting 10% for only putting up $400 or $500, whatever. And I was like, what does that matter? And he's like, well, he's not incentivized to play the same. And that's where the argument just went off the rails, because I can't really explain his side. So Guapo, go.
I don't think he was saying that me per se.
No, but he was just saying overall.
That the system is flawed.
Yes.
And I think that was his argument.
Yeah, so to bring this full circle, we actually had this discussion maybe a week ago or so when we were talking about, I said maybe 5 or 6 years ago, there was a discussion that was being had between Olivier Biscay and a bunch of others on Twitter of whether or not it is ethical to sell at markup to the point where either you stone free roll the event or you actually pocket money. So in other words, the extreme case would be like selling 100% of your action in an event for 1.2, you put 20% of the buy-in in your pocket, and then you go play for your backers. And the obvious counter argument is, well, if you are just being paid regardless of what place you finish, you have no incentive to win the event effectively, then your backers are taking the worst of it. And I think that was the majority of the people that argued against Olivier's stance. Olivier's stance was basically, well, if you don't try to win the tournament, you won't be able to sell at 1.2 markup any longer. Mm-hmm. And I think that's reasonable, and that's generally how like fair markets and free markets work. But I understand the human element of it, of just like, okay, well, it's live and it's slow, and people might just have faith for longer than they should. Like, they may not take enough corrective action, yada yada yada, and you could just fleece people. Okay, fine. But it doesn't scale. The second that you even have 1% of yourself, you are incentivized to win the event, because the alternative is just losing out on your free 1%. And the argument that Andre was trying to put forward was that the less of yourself that you have, the more incentivized you are to punt, to try to acquire chips, so that your time is being well spent. So in other words, you're not incentivized to just nurse a stack for as long as you can possibly get through the event, but instead just rocket it off early in maybe a 20-80 spot, hope to get lucky, build a big stack, and then give yourself a real shot to win. To which I basically said, like, if that strategy has merit, where there's a direct correlation between building a very large stack early and finishing final table or better late, then it's probably just a good strategy. And obviously, like, we're simplifying the argument, because if we're able to model this, you're going to see some positive correlation between like finishing as day one chip leader and finishing top 3 in the event. But it's to what degree is there a positive correlation? Because the notion that we have some level of control over how often we finish in the upper echelon of chip counts is probably the biggest fallacy that's being projected here. Like, this idea that you just get put into a dozen close spots on day one, and if you have no money at risk and very little of yourself to worry about, not being able to see through, then suddenly you're able to just like take all of these close spots and demonstrate a boom or bust type of style. It's just very optimistic to think that works out in your favor often enough to justify like rocketing off your free roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of like also. So for even me, I won a satellite to one of the 10Ks a couple of years ago, and I sold off a lot of myself. I only played for 12% of myself, but it was like a windfall for their whatever, and I ended up doing pretty good in the event. I think I got like 50th or something like that, and I was just like, so I argued it in a very bad way because I was just like kind of emotional about it, and yeah, it wasn't good.
I mean, the easiest way to understand this is to pair it to like re-entries. So somebody who is playing a negative chip EV strategy, like we went through this with the discussion of the JBEX landed bet. Somebody who's playing a negative chip EV strategy in order to accumulate a stack is hurting their hourly and harming their ROI
Right.
But they're increasing their likelihood of winning the event by some small margin. And if there's a huge discrepancy
Is
between
that true?
Yeah, because they're going to have stacks more frequently at the end of re-entry. So imagine that you could just re-enter
a million times.
Yeah.
Well,
until you run up a stack.
The easiest way to exemplify it is imagine that you re-enter and there's one hand left to play before re-entry.
Yeah.
And one person plays a perfect strategy, a perfect EV strategy, a perfect chip EV strategy.
The other one just goes in blind.
And the other one just goes in blind.
Right, yeah.
Who's going to show a greater return post re-entry? And it's going to be the person who goes in blind because no matter what, they're always going to have at least a starting stack.
They'll just re-enter.
Correct.
Again. Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
So, there is a correlation here, but it comes at a cost. And the only way to justify that cost is if the return is greater. And the only way for the return to be greater generally is for there to be some outside acting force. So in other words, like for the crossbook, if like you say you have 1,000% crossbook for a top 3 finish, well, if you're playing a 500, it becomes a $5,000 event if you finish in the top 3, right? So now top 3 is just like worth the rest of the prize pool basically put together, and you're heavily incentivized to just rocket it off because if you give yourself a shot at finishing in the top 3, you could be in for up to 10 buy-ins, and it's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
But
ICM would go way down.
Correct.
Right?
You basically would just like never play ICM.
Yeah, you just play chip
You
EV
only want to win.
Right.
Well, until it's like 5 left.
Even then,
change.
Even then, the difference between like 4th and 3rd, like let's say it's a $500 buy-in where first is $100K and 4th place is like $40K, $30K. First place to you is worth $1 million. Second is worth like 600,000. Third is worth like 500,000, and 4th is worth like 30K. So you're not going to play ICM there. You don't care. Like obviously finishing 4th sucks, but that would actually be your big bubble.
You can't.
4th would be your huge bubble.
Only thing that happens is it shifts. It's just the ICM will shift closer to.
You don't have a bubble. You would not have a bubble until 4 were left.
Are you sure not 5?
I mean, yeah, you would have like a soft bubble, like of course, but
your ICM would just gradually go up.
I'm sorry. The way you said that, it kind of threw me off. Yes, you wouldn't have a bubble till there's 4 left. You wouldn't be getting paid. Literally, you just move your payout structure until there's
because finishing 4th or 5th or 6th is not much of a difference as opposed to getting
correct.
4th.
Like even if you're looking at like 10K pay jumps between like 5th and 4th, that's nothing when you're looking at like a 350K pay jump between 4th and 3rd.
Right.
Yeah, that would all be irrelevant.
Right.
Somebody in the chat, ASG 1982, shout out to him. He says, should how much you sell affect how much permission you have regarding being allowed to chop?
No. First of all, that should always be.
Well, that
should be a collective decision.
That's never a predetermined thing. I thought you were going to go there.
No, I was going to say it should always be up to the player himself, but I don't necessarily think that's true. I think if somebody has like 90% of you, they should have some. Or let me put it this way: I think it should be very similar to like
how much you own of a stock.
Ownership of a company.
Right. If they own more than 50%, then maybe they get to.
So
if one person owns more than 50%, they can make the controlling decision. So like if you sell 35%, you get to decide if you chop or not.
Yeah. So this is interesting because like I've seen fully backed people where they rided like whatever. Sure, they ask like, "What do you think?" But it's ultimately their decision on what they want.
Yeah, but
like,
they have half of themselves.
All right.
Right. So like, yeah, you go to your board and you say like, okay, I'm leaning this way or that way, but what do you guys think? And you take it into advisory. But basically, like, if you say you only have 35% of yourself, that means the majority is out, and basically you should just consider it to be a board, but you're still maybe the majority owner with 35%. A plurality.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
So like, maybe you get to make the ultimate decision for the collective, but the collective should be informed. I just think generally speaking, it's good practice to discuss chops with the people that you're selling to. And you should also be selling to people that are either informed enough or defer to you in these spots because you're informed enough.
Yeah,
So somebody should be very well informed in the collective, I think. But the basic nuts and bolts of like my pushback for Andre's argument is not that like he's wrong that people do this. Of course he's right. Logical fallacies.
They're not incentivized to do it.
Right. That was the crux of it, is that like you're not actually gaming the system. The fallacy is that you're somehow gaming the system. If you could game the system that way, then more pros would just play this way, because winning is, or finishing top 3 is so much more incentivized to your bottom line than cashing or anything else. There's no way to fast track an MTT. You can get all the chips in the early stages and you still have to play another 40 levels, right? And it's just difficult not to show some attrition there. But more importantly, I think what's worth highlighting is like, of course, people do the things that he's saying could game the system, but they don't. They may do it because they think they're gaming the system, but all they are is losing.
Yeah.
So you're just backing losing players.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is
that they're firing themselves essentially, right?
If people are like very diligent about paying attention to results and shit like that, but like, you know, there are just some people who are longstanding with good reps where like if they go on a lose, like, you know, maybe I'm not the best example. Landon maybe would be a good example. If he wanted to like fleece people and sell 100% of himself at markup for a year and just put up no results, he probably could get away with it and still have people who would buy going into next year. The difference is his markup would just like gradually lower, right? He would have a tough time selling at the 1.3 that maybe he starts at, and he might be selling at 1.15 next January. But also, if he did that over the course of like $400,000 worth of buy-ins, and he got to pocket 30% of that, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. It's 120K, yes, that's huge, but it's also just like
the grift is only going to last for so long.
Exactly, it's only going to last for so long, so he's probably not even going to reap all of that. Like there are going to be events he either doesn't
his
sell
ROI
out.
might be higher than like just if he just played
Exactly.
it like.
Well, tough for your ROI to, well, no, it should be. Right? Like if you're garnering that markup, your ROI should be higher.
Right.
So just like having a piece and playing well would just always demonstrate. The only thing that would be higher would be his hourly by grifting.
Yeah.
Right? Because, but like again, if you're taking your hourly into consideration, you're just always losing in the early levels. People are going to take note and they're going to stop buying. It's like, bro, you're always out by level 3. Like I don't want a piece anymore.
Yeah. Right.
You know? So yeah, I thought it was an interesting conversation. It's one we kind of had already, but really all it did to me was suss out the notion that people are willing to back losing players in general at markup. And, you know, it's like you can just test the inverse. So what if they attempted, or what if you think that they'll drift into this logical fallacy if they don't have a piece of themselves, or they don't have a big enough piece of themselves? It's like, oh, then they're probably a pretty shit player when they do have a piece of themselves. Right? Like skin in the game isn't always the answer.
Right.
I guess is the biggest thing. There are plenty of CEOs and owners of startups and companies and everything else that may have $0 invested, but have enough equity in the company that they're heavily incentivized to do well and not just run it to zero. Right. Even if they're getting a salary, right? Like
any equity.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the incentives always align, where if like your upside is greater by performing, then you perform. You know, I think it's kind of just that simple. But yes, to answer your previous question, I'm going to put a package together. We're gonna put it up on the Twitterverse.
No way.
1.25, all 5Ks and below. 1.115 for
careful, Sean
10Ks and above.
Okay.
First of all, Sean thinks I'm beating these events more than I do.
You are.
Secondly, I'm joking about putting the package up.
Come on, just do it. Just come on, do it for the people.
There's no way on earth I'm going to torture myself playing tournaments
and then sell.
And have to sell.
Yeah.
I sell like 10%.
No, it's such a fucking hassle. Like, I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you hustle around and collect the cash and then divvy the cash back up and then send 1099s and fucking pay your taxes. And
bro,
I lose a lot.
Tortoise is selling in big chunks. He's only got a few 1099s to sell.
He didn't send me one last year.
No, I didn't. I didn't need to.
Really?
He lost all the places like cash.
You won.
Not in cash.
I had enough to like it didn't.
Oh, it's okay. We're not trying to out you here on air.
Just saying.
Just saying, you know.
Anyways, I wonder. Do you think? Do you know anything about these staking platforms? Like, do they 1099 for you?
Yes.
Like on your behalf?
I'm pretty sure they do. They do everything for you.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's the one good thing about it.
That's a huge incentive to sell through those forums.
Yeah, it is huge.
Yeah, because that's fucking annoying, man. Having to deal with like the paperwork at the end of the year, getting W2Gs, like.
I'm pretty sure they do.
There are so many people that buy where it's just like, I'll buy it at this price if you leave me alone when you cash. Like, you figure out the tax burden on your own. I don't want a 1099 at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, if that allows you to charge a little more markup, probably worth it.
Yeah, that's true.
You just figure it out on your own end.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm worried about this summer.
Why are you worried?
Because I think it can go one of 3 ways.
And what's the 3 ways?
I think that there's a chance I just play cash every single day, which would be the dream.
Okay, that's not happening. Go on.
But I'm worried because there's more games now than ever, and I'm worried about the state of cash.
Okay.
I always have these apprehensions going into the summer, but I'm particularly concerned about the state of affairs in cash. I'm worried there's like maybe going to be too much competition at the stakes that I'm accustomed to playing, and it's going to be too difficult to get into higher stakes, which I would love to.
Too much competition at the stakes that you're accustomed to playing.
So you're saying that the games are going to be tougher, or
no,
tougher
I don't
to
care
get
if
into?
they're tougher.
He's not going to be allowed to get in or be in your normal game, basically, because there's so many people.
It's like I say words.
Wait,
listen. To be fair, I didn't understand that either. I understood that the games would be tougher. I didn't know where you were going.
I don't care if they're tougher. I'm saying that I think that there's going to be more competition at the current, like at the 50, 100, 25, 50 levels that will dilute the games to a degree where players that are usually accustomed to battling will just stop coming. So I think games will be tougher to get off. I don't care if the games are tougher themselves, but if they do get tougher, I think they'll be more difficult to sustain.
And I thought you were saying tougher for a seat.
I'll always have a seat.
All right. Well,
they need me. Right. that's not an issue. So I'm worried about the sustainability of cash this year, and for that, I don't think that path is going to be totally an option. Which means I'm going to have to play a mix of both.
This is path number 2.
Path number 2, and I'm worried that it'll be a heavy tournament schedule, which I don't want to do.
See you there, buddy.
And so this is the least probable option, by the way, that I play like 70% of my hours in MTTs. Because the third option is that I get the fuck out of Vegas for the summer.
I was going to say, you just leave.
I go enjoy anywhere else in the world that isn't 116 degrees for the next 90 days, and you guys see me in the fall.
Wow.
But then the podcast dies.
Yeah.
I mean, it would die because like if we don't show up during the series, like no one's riding or dying with us in September.
You're not going anywhere.
True.
I'll be calling in.
Option number 2 sounds like the most probable.
No,
least probable by such
like
a long shot.
It's definitely
option number 1.
You're
is the way
just
to go.
delusional because option number 3 is the most least probable by a long shot.
No, you just really don't get me.
You want to do it,
We
but like
get
you
you.
would never
Exactly.
do it. That's the problem. Like we get you.
That's what
we
you
understand what the fuck
right.
you do.
That's what you want to do the most.
But
that's what's in
never.
your soul.
Never.
But that's not what you'll
there's
do.
There's a better chance that I stay here and don't play tournaments than there is that I go out and play 50 fucking events this year.
Whatever. C was just never an option.
50. You said 50?
Well, I said 80% of my hours.
Oh, I thought you said, yeah.
There's a lot of events to play, buddy. If you're going to play tournaments, you can get involved. I think that it's very reasonable. People who hustle hard could get in like 75 to 100 events.
There's no, listen, Berkey, there's no way. Like, you're sitting here, there's no cash game. You're going to sit here and do this?
Don't say something just so we can prove you wrong.
And twiddle your thumbs? No. He's
Twiddle
going
my
to
thumbs. I'm going to fucking relax. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to lay by the goddamn pool and tell my
That'll last for 3 days. And then you'll be like, what kind of action? Oh, wow, look at this. A 5K 6-max? I'm in.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll get some FOMO.
The first 5K 6-max is on.
I'll play all the 6-maxes. I always play all the 6-maxes. Well, I actually missed the 10K 6-max last year.
Not this year.
Speaking of next week, are we getting shirts for Landon? Like, what are
We
we doing?
should.
We need to like come in.
I just got a red towel.
We need to coordinate.
Let's get on that, Lamana.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fucking run an academy here. Okay.
I'll do it. Just let me know what you're thinking, and I'll do what needs to be done.
Well, all we need is the image of.
I wish I didn't have to do anything till Thursday. That would be
true.
great.
All we need is the image of him in the towel, and then whatever phrasing we want to put on it, and then Lamana can upload it to the shop.
Please don't make them white.
Or we could get the Fantastic Four finally, but that's different.
No, not fantastic.
I think we got to go with the towel.
Yeah, I think we gotta get the towel pick. We gotta get the towel.
We gotta get like his face printed out on those thingamajiggies too.
Like little
sticks.
Landon faces.
Oh, yeah, little sticks.
Yeah, like little guys with towels.
Where can we get that done? What if we instead of his face, it's just waist down? All you see is like a red towel and a belly button. Poor kid, we're gonna embarrass the shit out of him.
Wait, do we just put it on ourselves like this then?
I don't know. I'll tell you what. Him winning the WPT could inspire me to either choose path 2 or path 3.
Wow.
Like either fires me up and now I want to play a bunch of events, or it's like, hey man, thanks for the money.
I'm out.
I'm headed right for the hills.
I'm out.
I'll see
Please
you guys
win me
in
some
August.
more.
Yeah, just you know what? Keep half of it and go fucking play a bunch of stuff. I'll see you guys later.
You know, you gotta be here.
Go on.
You gotta be Landon's his rock. He's got a big summer coming up.
He's got a girlfriend now.
But his emotional rock.
Yeah, he has a girlfriend now.
No. His yell in the kitchen emotional rock.
The 10 p.m. decompressions with Landon is too much. It's just too much.
Should we talk about these payouts while we're talking about the World Series?
Yeah, we can.
We can get there.
Man, we got they just came out and said min cashes 2x
In most events.
In most events, not the main.
Most events.
Most
not,
events.
Yeah, right.
Is it still?
Good for the tortoise.
Is it still 15%?
It is. Okay. It is still 15%, which was.
I should have sold a 2.0.
It's
I knew this.
interesting.
I'm just gonna double everything.
Yeah, I'm playing around with the calculator, and I don't know who made this decision or who deserves a lot of kudos. I assume it's Jack. And at the same time, I'm going to assume that whether it's true or not, we had some influence over this because we've been screaming from the fucking mountaintops. Mm-hmm. And by we, I mean me, that the payouts really needed to be flattened. Yeah. And they did a fantastic job. I'm looking at the calculator now. Here, I'm sharing my screen with you. I'll do it this way.
I got it right here, puppy.
We'll go. That doesn't look good, Poppy.
All right, sorry.
Don't look good, cuz. Just you can cut to my screen. So this is for the 500 kickoff, assuming 10,000 players, which maybe that's way low, maybe that's way high. I'm not sure. It's a freeze out, right? So that might be high.
The first event?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that might be high. Let's do 5,000.
Oh, the first event is a freeze out. Nice.
So these payouts are actually like really fucking nice. First 229K, so that would be a $2.5 million prize pool. Mm-hmm. About 10% the first, a little bit less. Second 152, only a 70K difference. I know that like 70K when in first place is only 229 still seems like a lot, but to have only 50% differential between first and second is
it's not like a 2x.
It's really nice. This is really, really nice.
First, yeah.
Well, in a lot of instances, it's been like at least 100% between first and second, sometimes more. Like last year, the main event, we saw a full 100%.
Pretty close.
And you're talking about 6 million and 12 million. Yeah. Like, nothing small here. But I feel like maybe I'm just thinking about the online, but there's some discrepancies where like the difference between first, second, and third are just way more than double, or at least double. Now it's gotten a lot flatter. And I think like the other thing to look at is like,
I mean, it just has to if they're going to pay out 2x and still pay 15%
right.
The field.
Right. So yeah, this is a 2x min cash, which is nice. Very flat at the bottom, which I've kind of been clamoring for this. So you see that it pays 2x all the way down to 12.5%, or down to 10% of the field. Which again, this is something that I know personally I've been shouting from the rooftops, like just pay flat. From the 15% down to 10%,
right. Yeah.
Then you can start to jump.
It's so much better in these huge fields because you don't have to like stop the action just to make sure that these
exactly.
So someone gets their $30.
Exactly.
Right?
So the only argument I've seen It's actually from Michael Gagliano. He says, get ready for the clock to be called a bunch. Because this is...
Oh, yeah. That's true. People will stall even more now because it's a bigger payout to cash.
Now, give me one more second, and let me pick up the rest. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, people are going to stall regardless, but this might incentivize the people to stall even more.
Just on the stone bubble, you're saying?
Just on the stone bubble, correct.
Right. So I think the next corrective action here is that they start going table for table.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that, obviously, this year.
Right.
But this was my complaint. This was already happening way before 2x min cash. The biggest.
And when you say table for table, you mean round for round?
Round for round, yeah. And this was my gripe last year. I mean, you guys can go back and look at whatever episode was that I was on the bubble of the fucking 3K, but I wanted to murder somebody. I mean,
I remember that.
I was like a bulldog on a fucking short chain. Like, I'm screaming at floor people because there are 4 people at my table that are purposefully tanking like 45 seconds pre.
I wish I was there just to film you.
Oh man, I was livid. And like, it's funny because like the floor, I wasn't even mad at the floor person. He was listening to me and agreeing with me. And he was hovering over the table, but the motherfucker just wouldn't penalize someone. You know, it's like it's like the police officer that warned you're gonna get tased over and over and over and over again, and then just like never tases you. You know what I mean? It's just like, guy, you're standing here watching this guy just abuse the fucking clock. And the irony was, like, one of the guys that I was most upset with was like a recreational. And he was just like the most egregious with it. And it's like a weird thing as a pro where obviously you have to cater to your customer base a little bit, and you don't ever want a rec to have a bad time. But what was clear to me is that like he was one of those nitty recreationals that's like making money, you know, very small amounts. Like he's not a rec that's like negative ROI. You know what I mean? He's probably a break-even rec. He just strikes me as one of those guys who's like a lawyer 5 days a week, and then on the weekends he's just like trying to find ways to fuck a tournament structure. Like, you know what I mean? Like his whole livelihood is built around gaming systems, and so like he's like, oh, tournament structure, like this is the spot. Yeah, and he saw like somebody tank on a bubble once, and he's like, oh my god, like this is how I make all my money. And it was just so obnoxious. So yeah, like I would love to see them start going round for round, especially in these massive fields.
Your dog's chewing the charger.
Yeah, it's fine.
Get back in the camera. The people need to see you. There you go. That's a good girl. Look how big she's getting.
She's a big girl.
She's amazing. So, damn it, I lost it talking about Pip. Yeah. Go
on. So yeah, like I do think that this will cause a lot of problems around the bubble. It may be less noticeable. Wapo, leave it be, man. Leave it be. Jesus Christ. The pip cam is not...
She's going to shock herself.
The pip cam is not the crux of this show.
No. It's not the pip cam. I just don't want her to shock her.
She'll learn.
All right, so let me read his response. So basically, Kevin Mathers put out a tweet that says, thoughts on the new WSOP payouts. A Mincast now pays 2x for most events. And Gag says, just encourages more stalling near bubbles, pay more people, and pay them less. Soften the bubble, make everything move more seamlessly. Also results in a venue that won't facilitate chops, forcing people to play huge heads up. Again, bad for everyone.
Well, the latter point is not true any longer. They've definitely flattened.
With that, because the tops have been flattened. The
tops have been flattened significantly. I think they did a really great job tops and middle. I also think they did a great job on the bottom. Like, you know, a lot of the suggestions that we've been really fucking pounding on have come to fruition. Look, like in this payout scale, you get $1,000 for finishing in the top 15%.
Yes.
Right? You get $51 more now for finishing in the top 10%. You don't double that 1,000 until you get down to the top 5%? No, top 3% of the field, right? That's where you start to, you've now 4x your buy-in, right? And it starts to progressively like increase.
you make these semi-deep runs and you get rewarded.
Yeah, you finish in the top 1%. You finish 53 out of 5,000 players, and you've now made 10x your buy-in.
So
that's pretty nice. That's like 100K in the main.
My argument with him would be like, when he says pay more people and pay them less, what do you want to pay, like 20% of the field? Is that what he's implying?
Right, and like I would only agree with him if making the money then became less than a buy-in.
Making the money became less.
I'm all for, like, the only way you soften the bubble is if you start paying places less than a buy-in. But now you start to get into we're paying 35% of the field, and a lot of it's coming off the top. So like now first place is like 6%.
It really
instead
would
of 10.
help with the stalling.
Of course it would.
Of course, a lot.
It would help with the stalling.
Because for twofold. One, it's not that, it's a lot less money, so people aren't going to stall as much. And two, the bubble will happen so much faster because there's so many more people.
But hold on,
left in the tournament?
Doesn't this like tie into the conversation we had on here maybe a couple months ago about how like this is worse for the players because of rake and stuff?
What? What is worse?
Paying more people and paying them less?
I am of that impression.
That's what the conversation we had, right?
Well, it's not necessarily that.
Okay.
It's that it's going to flatten ROIs, which is maybe okay. Look, I think that there's a case to be made that you pay 15% and a min cash is less than a buy-in. Or maybe you pay 20% and min cash is less than a buy-in, and then you scale appropriately. But like now the way it would look would be 20% is $800, or because like even if we're talking about $500 buy-in, so 20%
$400
is $400, and then 17.5% is money back, and then 15% is like $700 or $600. It has to be something small, like small incremental jumps.
Yeah.
All the way down to like
1.25.
Yeah, and then like, finally by the time you get down to like 10% of the field, you might have been able to incrementally jump your way up to like a 2x. Where now at like 10% you're getting 1,000. That would be great because now there aren't really any substantial bubbles until you get down to like maybe 1% of the field. And at that point, it's very controllable. Now it's really easy to go round for round, or even hand for hand if you have to.
Yeah.
At that stage of the event, you could actually just like, if you did it this way, you could just forego hand for hand altogether. There just would be no bubble, I think. Right?
Yeah.
So you just let the cash happen. I mean, you might still have to go hand for hand, like one out, just to ensure that people are paid appropriately. Like you don't want there to be like 5 busts, and not know,
no, of course,
at what stage it happened, who gets fucked or whatever. But yeah, it would greatly increase the stalling then. But there's always going to be stalling in events. It's just worth too much money.
Yeah.
Right. Like with 5 tables left, you're just going to see a lot of slow play.
ICM's going to change. I would assume a significant amount when it comes to like risk premiums, and
risk premiums will go way up at the bubble now.
Yeah, for sure.
But they'll go way down post bubble.
Of course.
Like more so than ever. I mean, the incremental
the
jumps.
flatter it is, then it almost gets back to not zero, but like
it's very close.
Yeah, right.
I truthfully, I can't give enough credit to the powers that be, Jack or whoever the case may be. This payout structure looks fantastic. I remember we did a deep dive into payout structures. We actually modeled them.
Yeah.
And it looks very similar to this. It's very flat at the bottom, very flat at the top, and then you have your incremental jumps, like your significant pay jumps are now like middle to top, right? So it's like 1% of the field down to the final table is where a lot of the rubber meets the road, so to speak. And I think that that's really great because you don't want to just...
I wonder what my 14th place in the Colossus would have been. We figured that out.
Yeah. I'll take a look at it. How many runners were there?
That I'm not exactly sure.
Take a stab.
20,000 maybe.
I thought it was like 13,
or maybe not that many. Maybe not. Maybe 13 or 14.
Well, what was first? Do you recall?
First was 500K.
Okay, and that's usually like 8%.
Sounds
type of thing. So
right.
probably.
I mean, we could just look at the Hendon mob real quick.
So probably like 4 million in the prize pool. What was the buy-in? $400.
400. Yeah.
Yeah. So about 10,000. Seems about right. Do we know where the Colossus is on the schedule this year?
15,879.
Wow.
15,000. There you go.
I found it. Okay, so 15,000 runners. Calculate. You got 14th.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been worth $21,682.
Less.
What did you get paid?
I think it was 23 or 24, something like that. Yeah.
23 or 24.
So they're taking a little out the middle.
Yeah.
And first was
if you
400, you said?
first was 500.
Oh, it took a lot off the top.
Yeah. Well, how many runners were you missed it by almost 1,000, right? Was it
15,876.
Yeah, so it's almost 16.
You can't.
Go to 20. Go to 20. Let's see what.
You can't put in uniques.
Oh, I thought you could put in uniques. Gotcha. No. I see. Okay, so what's first?
502 for 20,000.
For 20,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd have to get right. You'd have to get an extra like 4,000 runners to get the same first place prize as last year.
Yeah.
So they're definitely taking a lot off the top and moving it down. Probably moving it down a lot more than like those middle.
I think it's within the top 1%. So like here we have 15,000. It's probably like between like place 90 or 98 and final table.
Yeah. So if you're gonna finish, it's probably gonna be roughly the same if you finish like a little bit outside the final table, the last couple tables.
Yeah.
The payout's probably gonna be similar, but you're definitely gonna make more like top 100, top 150, 200 players out of like 15,000, which is good. I mean, you get down to 150 players out of 15,000. You want to
make some bank.
You want to make some money. Yeah,
for example, I got I don't know 115th or something like that in the main a couple of years ago, and I got paid like 50K, and this year it'd be like 100, like 98 something.
Yeah, I looked at so we can take a quick look at the main event, as that's always very interesting. Where are you, Mr. Main?
Where's the end, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Look,
like event number 80, something like that.
Don't know.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. So they get 10,000 runners again. First 10 million now, which is good. They finally scraped that 2 million off. This is still a big jump in my opinion. I'd like to see it be more like 10.7, 10.75 even. Yeah, I think 10 million, 7.5 million.
Does it have to be 10 million?
No.
Yeah, so I mean, if it has
historically, no, it's been less than 10% most years.
But if you want second to be 7, then you got to take from the middle.
Yeah, and I'd rather then take for the top than the middle.
Right.
Because what?
Yeah, you're right. I'd rather this be 8, 6, 4.
100%.
There you go. Yeah.
Take the 2 million and put it back into the economy.
So if you make the final table, you're a millionaire.
Yeah, that's pretty much always been the case, and that's a good indication as to how much they've forced this in the past. Where like now, 10 million to first would be 10% to first, and 1 million to ninth would be 1% to ninth, which is pretty standard according to traditional payouts.
Do we think we're going to repeat or break the record again?
Yeah.
For entries?
I just don't see a way that main event numbers go down when crypto is rocketing.
Beat me to the punch. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I mean, that's the only thing that does have me very optimistic about cash is I think that there might be this pocket where a stake above what I'm accustomed to playing suddenly becomes available.
Yeah.
Because crypto's just like so...
Hopping.
Yeah. There's just so much of it right now that I think that the desire to play a stake up for a lot of the recreationals and professionals alike.
I think the crypto market cap is basically 2.5x what it was last summer.
Right. So and last summer was popping. I mean, that was the biggest summer I've seen since I've moved to Vegas that I can recall.
It was, I mean, man, the fields were huge everywhere you went.
Yeah.
Everywhere you went, there was just massive fields. Cash games were
a lot of cash. I mean, I'm strictly looking at high stakes, and don't get me wrong. Like the early 2000s, the high stakes scene was much more lucrative.
You were able to play every day last year, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We had 2 or 3 games pretty much every day at Bellagio. But you know, the big difference is now that the stakes are so much more manageable. Whereas early 2000s, like you could get common public games that were like 50, 100, 100, 200, and then like the Bobby Room game at that time would be like 1K, 2K, the Big Bet Mix, like all that type of stuff. That'll still exist, but it's more of an outlier, I think. Like you don't see the 300, 600, 1200 no limit games that were running 10 years ago. Those kind of fell by the wayside. They're like 200, 400 now.
Yeah.
And with inflation and the explosion of crypto and everything else, it's like that's pretty manageable. You know, it is very similar to like 50, 100 public back in 2005.
Yeah.
Which is pretty nice. So yeah, I mean, I think numbers will continue to rise. MTTs are just such a low barrier of entry, and people will get very excited at the opportunity to win one.
I'm one of them.
It's my job to incentivize them to just want to come win pots, playing cash instead. You know, think of the thrill of winning a 100K pot rather than playing 4 days to finish 7th place for 70K.
Yeah, but you know, the thing is that it takes a lot more capital in yours than it does.
Crypto's booming, baby. Who doesn't have capital, right?
If you want to win a 100K pot, you need about 50 in front of you.
Well, we can go multi-way. 25 should be enough.
Yeah, well, you know,
find a way to get that up to 100K. No problem. All right, let's
$400.
Let's finish this portion of the show off with a big shout out to Pocket Queens member Jessica Vierling. She won the $1,700 main event at Commerce Casino. She was the 4th woman to win a ring event in the series. I think they had 16 total ring events, so a quarter of the events having
strong.
Women win. That's pretty fucking
really
strong. That's outperforming the expectation of the 98-2 representation or whatever.
Did this the most optimal way too.
Go on.
When there was like for day 2, there was like 16 left. She showed up 45 minutes late, and 2 people were already knocked out.
Yeah, I've been there.
Exactly, most optimal way.
Keldo did that at Cherokee too.
Yeah,
Cherokee final table. He just showed up late. So yeah, I think it was like 343,000 the first, something along those lines. So congratulations to her. That's gonna put a wrap, I believe. Maybe today's the final event of the ring series. I'm not sure,
they
but
might have like a wrap up or something. High roller.
Well, the TOC. The TOC is gonna be what's today? The 21st.
TOC has to be tomorrow, I believe.
I think you're right.
Because I know because Corey just landed. So
okay, yeah, I think the TOC is tomorrow. The 23rd is maybe the final day. It might be a 3-day event. Could be tomorrow, the 23rd and 24th.
Maybe.
But anyway, the TOC is gonna be the final event. I believe they're streaming the whole thing. We're gonna see what the turnout is. Kev Math tweeted recently, I think there were 1,100 qualified players, but some of those may have been duplicates. So we'll see how much of that field actually shows up traveling to Commerce. It'll be worth keeping an eye on. $1 million prize pool. First place probably around 100K. Nice little incentive for all the ring and bracelet winners this year.
Nice little summer starter.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice for the people in Vegas and LA. It's a whole lot. Imagine putting yourself like back home, and you're flying from the East Coast to go play this event on May 22nd, and your first planned event at the World Series is like June 1st. How fucking annoying that 5-hour flight round trip, 5-hour flight each way, I should say, to go play 3 days in LA, fly all the way back to Pittsburgh, go back to your job or your wife and kids or whatever the fuck it is you do. Then 12 days later, make the trek all the way back to Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Sounds painful. I mean, it definitely sounds painful. I will say that.
You
but
wouldn't catch me doing it, that's for sure.
I mean, if you had to do it, you would do it.
No, I mean, yeah.
You were in a situation.
If I were in a situation where like I absolutely was cash strapped and having a $400 seat was worth that much to me, but like it's not even worth the air travel.
I was gonna say once you factor that in, it's
but once you're like, if you're gonna play the other birds, then yes, it is. Like you get a little bit.
You
of
mean in
back.
LA?
Yeah,
I guess
you get a little bit of rake back, kind of.
I wouldn't go that far.
It's painful, man. Yes, there's no other way around it.
No,
it's
back,
painful.
You pay 7% tax there. All right, let's get to the end of the muck.
All right.
All right, we are heading back to Texas. Texas, the old lodge. They're playing a cash game here. A tournament. It's the 3K main, and we got Surfer Bum for Life is gonna do some shit. So they're playing 3-6-6, and it falls to falls to the button, who makes it 1,400. We call out of the big with Ace 9 of diamonds. We get the the King of Hearts. 5 of diamonds, 5 of spades flop. We check. Button continues for 1,500 into 37. We call with our backdoor and over. Turn is the Queen of Clubs. We check, and button checks behind. Now the turn, or the river, it's a little spicy. So we got the 7 of Hearts, or just a complete brick. We check. Button makes it 1,700, which is like quarter pot. And we decided to make it 16,700, so 15,000 more. And we get called by the Queen Jack offsuit.
As you should. Just call river.
So we went really large.
You can't call river.
I mean, you can't raise.
I mean, you can, but this river bet from in position is like complete and utter non-size.
Sure, but like raising.
Okay, well, if he non-sizes, it's not a bluff. You're not winning.
Right.
You're definitely not winning. Like, it's a queen or a 7 or pocket 8s or 9s or
some sort of thin value.
It's some down bad thin value hand that either should bet more or not bet at all.
Right.
But through this line, they're never folding.
Fine, then just fold. But you absolutely cannot call. I mean, in theory, it's gonna call, but like, I don't fault him at all for trying to bluff here.
I mean, I do, because like that, nothing's folding. Through this line, I don't think anything folds. Just call. Just like, okay,
wait,
buddy,
why?
show me what you have.
Why?
Like, I think, why?
Yeah.
Because anything would just bet river. Like, any hand that's like for value other than maybe a queen would just bet river. A queen probably blocks river.
Doesn't have. What are you talking? I would bet we check this river somewhere in the neighborhood of like 55% of the time.
With
everything, like everything. You don't just bet your showdown value and then check everything else.
I would say that we are not going to. We're going to be betting. I don't know. It just seems like our rate.
What's your queen X targeting when it bets?
9s, 10s, jacks.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
Those are probably
those are
betting a lot
jack,
pre-flop, right?
Ace jack betting small.
Yeah, I think they're more like they're targeting like any small pair, any sixes.
Yeah, ace highs, small pairs, rivered 7s, whatever, right? Yeah. So, okay, fine. A queen will fit into a block. It's really not going to fit into any other size. Your kings will now target like check back queen X, and that same collective of like ace highs, whatever. So like your river size is, I mean, I could see a world where like you have 3 sizes, but it's probably just going to be like king X and 5X are going to fit into like pot, and then queen X and 5X, and like some ace highs and some cheap bluffs and whatnot will fit into like quarter pot. So you're probably gonna have like pot and quarter on the end, but you'll just realize then that you're not getting enough value for a 5 and have to check it sometimes. Especially if you have like 7-5.
Yeah.
Or 7s. You know, like these hands, they're just, you're never facing raise when you lead. Like literally never unless it's pocket 7s.
That is true.
So to maximize, like you're absolutely going to have a pretty balanced checking range here, and you should. And I think the size that he chose is really good. Maybe the candidate's not good, but I understand how he landed on the candidate, because whenever you face 20% pot from in position on a texture where he's absolutely capped at middle pair,
right?
It's just like, what are we doing here? Like, this guy is just begging me to take the pot away from him, so I'm going to try. And yeah, like ace 9's not going to be a good candidate because you don't really block any of the queen X that's bet calling. And you don't really, I mean, I guess you block, and like blocking 9s, I guess, is not good. Nines might try to get thin for value here. I don't know. I mean, it's just not a good candidate because ace high has showdown value on its own, so the solver is going to prioritize calling with it.
Yeah.
But like if we lock in position to betting quarter pot with only hands of showdown value, I think it might just like alter the strategy quite a bit. Anyway, as played, I think this is like completely reasonable. He could probably check raise flop. He probably should check raise flop at a pretty reasonably high frequency. Paired boards are just like very good for out of position. Either take Lamana off or get him off his phone.
I was pulling up the.
It was just it was a bad look.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess like before we go through the solve, what did he have to say?
He just said any different choices along the way that stand out, different sizings on river, etc. Was 2x pot too polarizing?
No. 2x pot's fine. You're not going to check raise a queen. You aren't going to check raise a king unless it's exactly. No, I mean like yeah. Everything is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Mechanically, everything is fine. I think you can check raise flop a lot. Right. But we'll see what the Wiz has to say about this. So he actually gets to play a lot of leads because of the paired 5, which is going to go hand in hand with what I was saying about check raising. I think we just take the lead off. People aren't leading king high boards.
No.
Really ever. So when we take the king away, or when we take the lead away, he's going to play a pretty heavy check raise strategy. But what you're going to see is in position is just not going to bet very often. So like in position c-bet range here, or c-bet frequency is probably going to be like 30% if I had to guess. Whereas in practicality, it's probably getting range bet.
Yeah. People see king 5-5 and you're like, ooh.
Right. So yeah, 17.5% c-bet whenever out of position doesn't lead. If we change this now to quarter pot, that's what he bet, right? Quarter pot?
No, he bet 14 to 37.
Oh,
so it's like
okay.
40.
So it was about this.
1,500 into 37.
Okay,
Sorry,
yeah. So it was about 40%. Yeah. So, what did he end up having? Queen Jack?
Queen Jack.
Offsuit?
Yep.
Yeah, pure check back. Right. So like, I don't think it's that crazy to think that he's range betting or close to it here. So let's just go ahead and make it like a 90% c-bet. See how this plays out. Out of position is going to check raise everything with a backdoor. Yeah, whenever you identify spots like this where the bet just comes through way too often, what's going to end up happening is like you're just going to check raise a ton for small. And that's exactly what happens. 60%. Like these are all pure. Like it just turns into a situation where like you just have such a dominating advantage that this isn't really even worth examining any further. Let me take a look at the ranges just to make sure that there isn't some sort of big incongruence. Yeah, I mean, like, look, these are MTT ranges at 80 big blinds. I would imagine people are probably missing a lot of these 3-bets, like 9s almost pure 3-betting, 8s 60% of them. 8-9 suited pure 3-bet, 10-8 suited. Like these just aren't getting 3-bet pure. So let me do a little bit of work here on big blinds range just to make this a little bit more feasible. Take all these like low frequency continues.
What does his exact hand want to do?
Ace 9 suited.
Call. Yeah.
Oh, it's a pure call.
Pure call. Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I mean, I just think like we end up with some hands that maybe we shouldn't here some of the times. Like let's do 25% ace queen, 25% ace jack, and increase the frequency of like the king queen, king jacks. Okay, I think this is getting to be more reasonable. Queen 6. Let's. Yeah, man. Theory's tough because like a lot of these hands just don't get found. Jack 8, Jack 7. Like you have to be pretty studied to find this stuff. Suited connectors. Okay. All right. Let's assume that this is a little bit more in line. I imagine you're still going to see a fair amount of leads. I should have just locked it to no lead, but we'll do that here in a moment. Okay, so the leading goes way down at least, so it's only 8%. Now what I imagine is going to happen is we're going to bet like maybe a third of the time once we take the lead away, and it's going to be for quarter pot instead of 40. And Eureka. I am a god. 33% of the time
nice.
we see bet for quarter pot.
Yep.
Again, I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that he's going, whoops, I did want to change that. Going a lot closer to near range bet. So let's lock for that. It'll increase the check raising frequency, but it won't be as extreme as what we just saw, because the advantage isn't nearly as great. So let's lock. Let's assume he's c betting here. Well, let's do it this way. Let's assume that his imbalances are going to be pretty obvious. So just like betting way too many good hands. And then do this. All right. Let's no block this way. This will probably result in about 80%. Yeah, there we go. 83% stabs. Now we respond with a big old heavy mix and a bit of an overfold. Quite an overfold, actually.
Yeah, because they're just so weighted towards value.
Yeah. So now we're going to be playing a mix of check raise and call. And this is like a pretty good strategy, honestly. Like all these hands that are folding are just like literally nothings. So pretty reasonable. When we look at ace nine specifically, all the backdoors want to check raise about 20% of the time. So again, would have been a very viable option. He chose call. That's going to be completely reasonable. Everything else that's check raising obviously is just going to build around the 5. So turn queen of clubs. Don't suspect we'll have very much, if any, leading here. We do have a lot of queen X that continues, but most of it exits through the check raise. So yeah, you can see our queen X is quite reduced, and it's not strong enough to lead into a king anyway. So no real leading taking place here. We're going to check. Start to polarize here. So very polar strat, like just 5x bets, and then king X bets, and then our nothing. So a lot of the nothing in the middle. So high check back frequency here. Very reasonable. River, 7 of hearts. And now I imagine we're going to play block and pot. Okay, so block in 2/3. When we highlight the block, as I stated, almost all exclusively queen X. Slivers of king X in there, but it's mostly like the ones that double block. So like king queen, because you're shooting after a very narrow target of weak hands. It's ace high, it's 7x, it's pocket pairs, and we know that all of his 5x exits the turn. So the assumptions that he never has 5x here is absolutely correct,
right?
Both in theory and in practice, I would assume. And then when you look at the bigger bet size here, it's exactly what you would think it was going to be. It's your stronger king X that unblocks the queen, giving him hands to call with. It's your strongest queen X, so your ace queen here gets in. That's really the only queen X that we find. And then it's just going to be hands that do a good job of bluffing. So it's whatever nothing we arrived here at. You can see ace 9 of not of diamonds, but of hearts and clubs, is going for the large size here. Ace 8, we only have it of clubs. That's also going for the large size. So a lot of this is obviously predicated upon what we chose our flop strategy to be, how much we're check raising here. And then you can see a lot of the 5x here is going for 2/3 pot. When we look at the check, as I kind of stated, we're going to have a lot of 5x in there as well. And it's basically because we can't get enough value by betting. So he'll have natural value bets. And you can see that we're balancing here with a lot of 5x here, queen 5, jack 5, both suited and offsuit. So our strongest 5x doesn't really get in there, but that's because we want to unblock hands that he's going to value bet. So we want to unblock the ace. We want to unblock the king, ensure that he has those to value bet. Queen 5 obviously is a boat, so we needed something nutted that we can just get it all in with. Otherwise, we would want to unblock the queen as well, so he had thinner value bets. And then you can see the jack 5 does precisely that. We also have pocket 5s here for quads that's going to unblock. And then a lot of hands that are just going to be able to bluff catch, like pocket pairs. You can see our ace 9 is in there, as well as the other suited aces. Almost no king X. King X is just like too good, which is kind of surprising to me because I would think a lot of the value bets here would be queen X. But I guess we're just using our better queen X here to bluff catch with.
Yeah.
And then we have enough 5x and under pairs and things of that nature. We're basically trying to like bluff catch versus 7. I think what happens is queen is probably supposed to double barrel here at some frequency. Let's see. No, because we're so polar on the turn. So yeah, he should have a lot of queen X. I'm really surprised that we're not checking more of our queen X. I guess we're just getting greedy and we're blocking it ourselves. Maybe he's just not incentivized to bet queen X. That could be what it comes down to. No, he does. He bets a lot of his queen X. So he's split between 40% and 67. As I said, what size did he choose?
Quarter.
Yeah. How many big blinds was it? 6, 12, 18. So just shy of 3.
3, yeah.
So like call it 2.5 big blinds. This is how you avoid doing math on air. Okay, so he bets 23% of the pot. Let's see what hands, if any, make it into there. 1% of hands, and just like nothing is incentivized to do this. But it is obviously a lot of queen X. And then like a little bit of pocket 7s. Even like, well, he just doesn't, that's the thing. He just doesn't bet 8s, 9s, or 10s. At least not when this is the strategy available. Let's see if he does if we give him 40% as a secondary option. I mean, the quarter will obviously go away. I'm just curious if like 8s, 9s, 10s, whatever. No, see, like they just never bet. Even jacks don't bet.
Right.
So I think if we leave this quarter bet here and then we just try to fill out what we think he's choosing to bet this size with, because it's such a non-size, it'll demonstrate the response appropriately. So if, let's just say 100% of the time he's betting, what would it be? Second pair is queen X? Yeah. So let's give him all of his queen X in the, well, let's not make it that egregious. We'll do 75% of his queen X. And then let's say 25% of the time he's betting like third pair or worse. Not low pair, but how do we get the 10s? Oh, it's a part of third pair.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And block all. All right, so let's say that this 25% range just doesn't have bluffs. And it's only 7x plus. Let's see what happens now in response. Oh, look at that. You never fucking call.
Yeah.
How about that, Connie? How about that? Would you look at that? You just never fucking call. You know what you do? You know what you do? You know what you do?
Fucking race.
Yeah.
The 200% wasn't enough.
Jam it in.
You fucking jam.
Jam it in.
You fucking jam.
That might work.
Because you have a 5 and he doesn't.
Yeah.
But 200% pot should also have worked.
Yeah.
This is Texas, buddy.
Welcome to Texas.
This is Texas. But God, man, I love poker.
Yeah.
This is exactly what you would expect. This is how exploits look in theory. When somebody does something that is heavily disincentivized, you say, fuck you, call me, and you stick all of your chips in the
That's what he did.
With range.
And he said, okay, fuck you, I call.
With range. The only reason Queen Jack and Queen 9 are calling is because it beats some of the hands that you expect to fold.
Yeah.
Look at the response now when we jam.
Auto folding.
Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that.
5% of the time.
Look at that. He just has to guess. And it's funny because like Queen 7's only calling because it blocks the houses. So like you block 7-5 and Queen 5, which are some of our checks. And you block pocket 7s, which is nice. So like the only thing calling here is like the sliver of pocket 7s that gets in there, and then like Queen 7, if he ever has it, which he might not, or not enough anyway. Like he might not even see the value in betting this.
Why is it?
Because it's
Doesn't it say Queen Jack's calling there sometimes?
I mean, all this stuff is calling like low frequency, but it's all indifferent because your kicker's on the board. So like having queen jack is no better than like.
No, I get what
the
you're
irony is ace queen folds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And ace queen actually beats some of the hands that we jam because we jam worse queen X. We jam queen 6, right? So it's really demonstrating that like we're on an exploitative. We're like in an exploitative realm here, and it doesn't care about the sliver of EV that ace queen will make by beating some of our queen X. It cares more about the fact that we have so much ace high that when we have ace queen, we're bluffing less, right? So ace queen blocks enough bluffs where it doesn't make any money off of the value or off of the hands that we're merging with, like queen 6 or whatever. Whereas like queen 7 blocks enough value that it starts to make money, you know? So yeah, I mean, Surf Bomb, you had the right idea here.
Mm-hmm.
I think principally speaking, you recognized an exploit and you absolutely took advantage of it.
Ride that wave all the way to Optimalville.
That's right. Unfortunate this one didn't work out in your favor.
Yeah.
You are in Texas, buddy, so like
you got to keep that in mind.
you know what you signed up for here. I think power jamming here for all of it is a very reasonable play. I think your friends are going to be like Conrad and tell you you're a fucking idiot when you jam it all in here.
I just wouldn't jam here
For 50,000 and get snapped off by Queen Jack.
This gets snapped off.
If he jams, maybe.
Like, I don't care what the sim says. A lot of people are just going to call it the queen here.
That's also very fair.
Like, so whatever you want to do with the sim, like,
this
it's
instance,
just going to get called.
In this instance, it's not about the sim. We don't care what the sim says. Like, we're not jamming because the sim gives you permission to jam here. We're jamming because this motherfucker bet 20% pot on the end.
Doesn't have a 5.
And he does not have a 5.
I understand that, but that fucking same bastard's going to look at you and be like, guess what, buddy?
Let him.
You don't have a 5 either, so enjoy the rebuy line.
Just let him. I mean, like,
I
that's...
get you.
I get not wanting to do it in an MTT because, like, if this guy's right once, you're now out of the tournament and he just gets to go on his merry way. You don't get to do anything about it. But, man, in a cash game, if I jam for 500% pot on the river here and a guy calls me like and catches me bluffing, I don't give a fuck. I have a customer for life.
Yeah, no.
That won't be the first 500 or the last 500% pot bet he faces.
Right.
And the likelihood of him getting it right often enough isn't going to be in their favor.
Right.
So it's just like you... In cash specifically, this stuff is so easy to just execute on because this size absolutely deserves to be punished. And it's nearly impossible to balance in alignment with what your incentives are. So you just absolutely pull these triggers and you say, look, this guy left himself open to an exploit. I'm going to capitalize on it. And if I'm wrong in this one instance, it's okay. He will leave himself open again in the future and I'll take advantage of it. And he's going to have to continue guessing. So yeah, like look,
in a tournament, you're never gonna see that motherfucker again. And all he does is gonna ride off into the sunset with your fucking chips.
That's true. Eric Affrat have been snapping people's dicks for a decade now, just continually riding off into the sunset. If you guys would like to submit your own in the muck, head over to @onlyfriends_pod. It is our pin tweet, or you can hit #Discord in the chat. Follow that link; it will take you to our Discord community. We have an entire forum set up for in the muck submissions, where the Lamanager himself will come in and pluck them out one by one. We really appreciate you guys submitting these. We've had a lot of fun dissecting them. Obviously, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. Make sure you're getting reminders when we're going live. We have a big summer lined up for you guys. I don't think you understand what's about to happen here. We're getting it lit and popping. Conrad's going to be on the beat.
Well, he keeps saying this, but we've never had this conversation.
Doesn't matter.
You're on a need-to-know basis, buddy.
I don't know about all this.
You're on a need-to-know basis. You just show up where I tell you to show up.
I don't know about all this, man.
We're going to have Connie out there in the field, so if you guys find yourself at the WSOP and it's before 2 p.m. Pacific, or sorry, before noon Pacific, because we're going to be a little bit earlier during the WSOP time. If it's before noon and you see Conrad just roaming around, go find him. You'll get on TV.
That's right.
Not TV, but YouTube TV.
Somebody said
same thing. You'll be on the
911,
on the tube,
Cash
on the
App,
tubes,
PayPal,
on the tubes. You know, we're gonna be bringing a lot of guests. Jesse Sylvia is confirmed. He's gonna be coming hopefully once a week. We're gonna have Matt in here as always. Poo Dog is gonna be on the grind with us. We're gonna be looking to bring some others in. I was talking to Joey Saul. We're gonna have him on at some point. Jungle Man wants to get on here. So
deep runs.
Love
so
jungle.
many deep runs.
That's an afterthought.
Love some jungle, man.
Can't wait.
That's an afterthought. We're gonna have to get a scoreboard. We're gonna need a Landon J-Beck scoreboard, obviously. We're gonna need a team scoreboard for how we're doing out there, slinging it. Maybe get some summer wagers going. I don't know, fantasy teams.
We're still waiting for our fucking 40 push-ups.
Aren't you wagering enough already this World Series?
What am I doing?
I said, aren't you wagering enough already? I mean, how much gamble do you need, buddy?
We're still waiting for our 40 push-ups.
I owe you 40.
Me and the tortoise is just here waiting for you to get on the pip cam.
Go ahead, cut to that pip cam. Let's get out of here. We'll see you guys all noon Pacific tomorrow with Matt in here for Strat Chat Wednesdays. I'm going to leave you guys with 40 push-ups.
Let's go. This kid. Pip cam.
The camera's out.
The camera's dead. No, it doesn't count. The camera's dead. Wait. Take my camera and do it.
It's all right. Let's get out of here.
Well, we are getting out of here, but right now they are having the WPT final table with Jason Somerville out of the basement.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He is out of the basement. He is commentating with Jamie Kerstetter, so head on over there for the next few days. Right after us, they are on. They have the 1100 Prime, which Brad Owen is at the final table. Also, Dan Sadilva, I can't say his last name, sorry.
Close enough.
Final table with the Prime and the 3500, so you'll get to see him the next few days. Pretty dope. Get on over there.
Peace.
Later, squad.
Peace.